Hi, my name is Wayne Dory, writer-director, Doorbell Films. The show you're about to watch is about comic book culture. That includes the comics, movies, board games, collectibles, and of course, trading cards. Young teens, no longer in fear of their obsession of comic culture, now enjoy the mainstream media who can't get enough. And the general public have an ever-growing appetite. Comic book culture comes from a long line of creative people that see and live their adventure stories. It's about the people that made the stories and the stories that made the people. This show acknowledges the history and the artistry as we embrace and explore the change and we celebrate the culture that is comic book culture.
So you get special theater cards. It's probably the entrance to go around quite so much. Everything easily complete.
The comic book. Within the pages of comic books, young minds wander. Bigger than life characters and fantasy storylines send you on a voyage into a world of like-minded people. Like modern folklore, the storytelling of comics creates a world that you can enter and be surrounded by. You can become your own character and then go forth and do battle, or maybe you just want to sit and read. There have been many changes, and that change has come about as a shift in culture, a shift in comic book culture.
Comics was just starting, there was like new life being bred into it. Before that, we had the 1966 Batman, which was pretty much everyone's first on TV comic book type character that people really acknowledged. There was previous ones with the Superman series and whatnot, black and whites, but I think the culture started shifting. People were interested in different mediums to express themselves and whatnot and to read. And there was a shift in comics, especially in the early 80s, that, I don't know, there's all people just started all of a sudden reading Superman, Batman, Spider-Man. Then the great independent rush that came in with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Cerebus, which is a big Canadian company, Dave Sim, artist, writer of it. And it kind of exploded in a different way than it did, say, now. So you basically, I think the grassroots of what is happening now really happened in the early 80s. It started. The guys like our age started growing up, and the hobby became very important, and people started writing about it. So you had television, you had newspapers, actually focusing in on what people did. Spider-Man. Why is Spider-Man so popular? Because it's a character that all of us at one time were. You see what I'm saying? So like that's where it all started, and then from there it just took off. You're going to see new cycles of new books, new characters, new themes. Gay theme through the comics, unheard of in the 60s, in the 70s, even in the 80s. Now, no problems. It's accepted within the culture. You have a whole bunch of different writers, different type of people, personalities writing now books that were never written before. So when you say, when's it going to end? It's not going to end.
like a father-to-son passing of the torch, the craft of storytelling is key, and the bigger the fantasy, the better. Witches, warlocks, dragons, monsters, superheroes, men of steel, the super evil, the ultimate villains, a parade of characters created in someone's overactive imagination.
The biggest thing that we do is trading cards, but we prefer not to brand ourselves specifically as a trading card store because it gives us the opportunity to make sure that we're branching out into other things as well. It's not the only thing that we do, it's the entire package that makes us what we are. On Mondays, there's Dungeons & Dragons. Tuesday nights, there's Hero Clicks. Wednesday nights, board game night. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, all kinds of different card games. A large percentage of what we do is Magic. It's a lot of the employees of the store, a lot of what we do, we sort more Magic than we do anything else, and so on and so forth. But you could also say that's because Magic takes the most work out of everything we do. Board games, it's simple enough to order them and place them on the shelf and restock them. Magic is a far more complicated secondary market. There's countless cards, all of them have to be sorted for it to work. You need people sorting us up all the time. Comics have become more mainstream in modern times. Like there's always been like a sort of a thing that is kind of a thing for kids in a way. Comic books have always, you always have, like as a child I had like Spider-Man underwear and stuff. That's always been a thing, right? Whereas recently with the rise, especially with the rise of like the huge budget Marvel and DC films, it's become more of a mainstream thing. It's kind of cool to be a nerd now. And board games also have contributed a lot to that.
Now, 20-year-old comic book culture games like Magic the Gathering are being played not only in localized tournaments, but all over the world. Some tournament players can make $40,000 for a first-place finish or more.
Well, first you play sort of your regular events here at the local store, and then over time you sort of, once you feel your skills are ready, you either play in a Pro Tour qualifier tournament or you go to a Grand Prix. Those are sort of the two best ways to qualify for the Pro Tour. The costs of these Magic cards, they vary because in tournament play there are many different formats. You've got the standard format, which is all the newest cards, the last 2 years worth of cards. And usually to complete a tier 1 constructed deck is usually about $400 or $500. But then again, that's like close to the top. Then you've got modern constructed, where it's about 10 years old worth of cards now. And there are a bunch of cards from that era that are highly sought after, that are usually, like, there's sort of cards that everyone needs that are $50. And then you've got sort of the most expensive card in that format is Tarmogoyf, which is a $150 card right now. Magic the Gathering is about 20 years old now. This year is the 20th anniversary, and the company who makes Magic the Gathering, Wizards of the Coast, is really towing that home.
From the inside, the comic book culture is about a sense of belonging and gathering regularly, and even a sense of family.
This weekend, we're doing the Magic 2014 pre-release. It's a big Magic tournament where players get an opportunity to play with the cards from the new Magic set, Magic 2014, a week before those cards are actually available for sale. This upcoming Friday, we're doing a big modern tournament with guaranteed prizing. We're giving away Vendilion Cliques, other great modern cards like Sword of Light and Shadow. We had a great success last week with a similar event. They're releasing Magic 2014. Every year they do a new set of Magic that's like kind of updated, fresh, a new twist on old favorites, and this is the new version for the upcoming year.
The face-to-face part of society is back, and this time it has a great deck of cards to trade with.
Community is a huge part of what makes this game special. What takes this game from a bunch of nerds sitting in a basement shuffling decks of cards to a real event that people want to come out to. Magic is way more than just a card game. There's people who dedicate their lives to it, right? I've got a friend, John Aldifer, who's a professional Magic card judge. Last year, he traveled all over the world. He attended 27 Grand Prix in a year. And there were only 27 Grand Prix weekends. He went to every single one, working as a judge, organizing, you know, and you don't get paid. It's not a job, but they compensate you in ways, you know, you get packs or you get special foil cards for judging that then he can take and sell and, you know, help pay for his plane tickets, and the organizer will put you up in a hotel room for the weekend and stuff like that. So that's one, you know. And then there's other people. Our store wouldn't be what it is today if it weren't for Magic. A perfect example of people taking it to the next level is just a couple weeks back, there was a fire and a local player's house burned down out in Kingston. And coming up next weekend, there's a charity event that had been put on by a bunch of people in the community saying, hey, let's come out, let's play, do what we love, play cards, raise some money, and help get this guy back on his feet. And then there's other people. Our store wouldn't be what it is today if it weren't for Magic. You know, we sell board games, and we sell, you know, role-playing games, all kinds of stuff, but our bread and butter is Magic. And if it wasn't for the fact that we've got 40 people walking through here on a Friday night, this store wouldn't, I wouldn't have a job, you know?
Comic book culture is entrenched in movies like never before. Hollywood is falling back on a gold mine of storylines. Technology and comic books are scoring #1 box office smashes, not to mention all the merchandise that goes with that.
I mean, traditionally, you know, you have that idea of a comic book person in your head who's like, you know, living in their mom's basement and, you know, not, you know, not socializing and things like that. And that may have been true a long time ago. And I think, you know, when you're a kid and you're into reading and you're not necessarily into sports, or, you know, you don't want to go out quite so much. Everything happens in your head that's important. So I mean, that is the culture. That's kind of what drew people to comic books in the first place. This, you know, 4-color imagination of printing, and suddenly everything in your head is alive on a page. So that was really compelling. And I mean, when you come right down to it, good comic books are good film and television. Comic books are almost like storyboards. The comic book industry is sort of, I mean, obviously you see films. Like, I mean, how many blockbuster films coming out right now are based on comic books? There's an incredible amount of that. But that doesn't really translate into comic book sales. But comic book sales are still strong. I mean, across Canada, the United States, we're doing very well with still print comic books. Sure, they're getting better and better when things are done digitally, but because of the medium, and because of the kind of collectability of it and stuff like that, most people still really would prefer a physical thing. So, I mean, comic books are going strong, and you know, if studios realize that they need these things to, mine ideas, they're going to keep it strong. Because I mean, you're only making so much money off the Avengers comic book, but the Avengers movie is going to make you, obviously, it made a lot of money. So as long as they continue to mine comic books for those storylines, I think that there will always be comic books there. Ever since I was a little kid, I love superhero cartoons, and comic books. When I was a kid, the only place you could get comic books was a corner store. They would never have the issues in order. It was always hit and miss. And I walked into this store, a buddy of mine took me here when I was 8. And it was like coming home. It was nerd nirvana. I can't believe a place like this exists for me.
The family has become fragmented, but the board game is offering a patch of common ground as the entertainment value of spending time with the ones important to you gains favor. The pastime that was once hidden away has become mainstream. The geek is now unique and the culture is comic book influenced.
Right now, the hottest thing is probably the N64 games and consoles. We've been selling like a console every day at least, maybe even a couple. Super Nintendo and Nintendo stuff for us sells really well too. But I think as years go by, more like the N64 becomes more retro, and more people kind of want to get back into it because it's like nostalgic, or they remember it as a kid, and they kind of just want to get back and enjoy playing that again. So I would say A&C Games is about rediscovering rare and vintage games. Our main market is like the retro gaming, video gaming. So anything like Nintendo, Super Nintendo, N64, Genesis, or anything that's really hard to get, like a certain game that may be very rare, like for example, Earthbound. The cartridge alone is worth like almost $300. So, yeah, stuff like that. That's what we specialize in. Honestly, I just got back into trading cards this year, just because someone else that was one of our customers, he kind of just got me back into it. I used to play Magic like 10 years ago, and then I kind of stopped. But I noticed like a resurgence in the game. So I think it has a lot to do with friends getting into the game and getting their other friends into it, and it kind of just snowballs from there.
As a very large part of the population has rediscovered the games of youth, the circle is now complete.
Nostalgia and fun, okay, is the fun factor, and that's where we bring, or we're bringing it back, where people are getting together, socializing, instead of just internet taking everyone away and staying at home. And this is where our parents were telling us back then, like when I was growing up, saying get out of the house, stop playing video games and stuff. That's when we went to arcades. Obviously, arcades are sort of like they've been gone, or like for a couple of years now. They've taken that away from people. So we came up with a new concept, and this is our version of arcades, or that's what people presume it to be. And we fused it to bring people together and play games. It could be video games or card games. It's just about being, socializing, having people come together, meeting people, and having fun. I think that's, what it's more about. This is where we have people meet up. They get to play games like casually with each other to learn and get better at the games, as well as have fun with it. And we do tournaments weekly for different games. And so every month there might be a game that you like to play, and you can participate in the tournament or just join a group of people that like the same game as you and have a lot of fun with it. And like I said, a lot of people come out because it's hard to find people that like the same interest sometimes, but we're like the place to go if there's a game that you like, and we will list the game on certain days, and then there will be a group of people that come on that day to play. This is the 21st Century Social Club, and that's what we're aiming for, to bring like more people to places like this, and we're expanding them probably in the next few years to different places, different cities, countries, yeah.
In 1903, a baseball card game was introduced. It involved trading cards you can play with. 100 years of amazing technology later, and we are back to facing each other and playing with trading cards and board games made of cardboard.
Coming from Europe, when we came across here in North America, we thought the one thing was missing. The board game as we see it in Europe, there's definitely more. It's out there. There's definitely more people playing it. It is very common to have family time on Sunday afternoon and play board games with the families, and we thought that was missing here. Yes, there's a board game store. There's places where people can play, but we thought it wasn't for the masses. So we wanted to create a place that is the most inviting and welcoming to the broad audience. People that don't necessarily play board games every week. They don't necessarily have too much experience beyond the classic, the Monopoly, the Trivial Pursuit, the Risk. And we wanted them to introduce this beautiful world of board games that is out there.
I think it's probably a little bit of both. I think women have always been interested in games. I think that there is a large enough scope that it's becoming easier for them to find entry points into the hobby and develop their passions and their interests at either the hobby or the professional level. But yeah, I think that it's always been there. Women have always been interested in comics and board games. It's just becoming easier for them to join and create their own communities within and find their own methods of expression throughout.
Why do people work and live in this altered state?
I've chosen this career because I enjoy it. You don't necessarily choose this line of work to get rich per se. It's because you enjoy trading card games, or you enjoy comics.
We're doing what we're doing because of that moment when it clicks into people. They are being presented a game that they are not sure about. We teach them the rules. It's very abstract, and at some point they're getting it. They understand what it is, and this is the time where they're gonna start having a lot of fun with it. And that moment when it clicks, it's very rewarding.
The reason why I work in this business is because I have a passion for video games. I started playing video games since I was like 2 years old. I have 2 older brothers, and the first gaming, I guess, system that we ever had was a Commodore 64. I'm not sure if everybody remembers that, but people during my generation would. And yeah, just ever since then, I've always been playing games, and I am really, it's like a dream come true for me to be making a living off of it and I guess being a part of this.
I play Magic because I love winning.
I'm doing this because it's just something that my brother and I, we're kids growing up, and I think we're living sort of a dream for a lot of people, working with video games and like creating a place that's sort of like arcades, so we can play games, have fun, bring more fun to more people, and making more friends. And I think that's the most important thing, is we socialize with our customers as well, and they become our friends. And I think we never grew out of that, and we're doing that with our business. And I think we're just building like a huge, like friends, customers, business, or just networking,
I love board games, and I love the feeling of acceptance and community that they can foster.
Good luck, have fun, talk to everyone, try everything you can. There are a ton of different ways to play this game, and you're going to have something great ahead of you.
Working here for a long time and now owning the place, I really hope that I can give that feeling to somebody else. I hope when somebody else walks in here, they go, oh my God, this place was designed for me. Everything I would ever want, everything that I just love is together in one store. So I hope that we convey that to other people.
I don't think there's an end to it. Honest to God, I think that if you look at the way movies are being made, if you're looking at the way scripts are being written, everything's turned into a comic book. And I honest to God believe it, that it's never going to end, because comics are just another form of book. But there's an art medium to it. There's a visual interpretation to it. I don't think it's going to stop. I think new characters are going to be created as new generations come into it. You're going to see new cycles of new books, new characters, new themes. Gay theme through the comics, unheard of in the 60s, in the 70s, even in the 80s. Now, no problems. It's accepted within the culture. You have a whole bunch of different writers, different type of people, personalities writing now books that were never written before. So when you say, when's it going to end? It's not going to end.
Here at Comic Book Culture, we continue to explore the strange new pastimes and seek out the keepers of the inside move. We boldly go the extra mile to gain the knowledge and to bring to light the truth like a just-released game. We will pursue the international belief in the liberty and the right to bear comic books. We, the undersigned, are indivisible and in love with our comic book culture.
I don't know what happened. It's like a bad dream that plays over and over in my mind, and I have this sinking feeling in my stomach. And you know, the one that makes you feel like your soul is leaking. It wasn't supposed to end like this. I mean, I didn't, I don't know.